Good morning. This is Robert Baca. I'm the president of Mexico Genealogical Society. We will have Lisa Kindrick here in just a minute to do her presentation, but I wanted to go over a few things. Hold on just one second. Okay, the first thing, of course, today's talk is Lisa Kindrick, New Mexico Family Research and the Genealogy Center. This is the Albuquerque Genealogy Center in the main library. I want to go over a few events that are coming up. On June 12th, we're going to have Henrietta Martinez Christmas will be talking about New Mexico ancestors in El Paso, working with online records. And on August 27th and 28th, we'll have the New Mexico Genealogical Society's virtual conference. Information is coming soon. Look in the June New Mexico Genealogist Journal if you're a member, and online at www.nmgs.org. Again, that's nmgs.org. Just to give you some information about the Genealogy Center, it's with the Albuquerque Public Library. The Genealogy Center is on the second floor of the main library in downtown Albuquerque on Copper Avenue Northwest between 5th and 6th Streets. That's 501 Copper Avenue Northwest, Albuquerque, New Mexico 87102. And you can access the Genealogy Society through the abqlibrary.org website. And that's abqlibrary.org. All right. So Lisa Kindrick has been a librarian at the Genealogy Center of the Public Library, Albuquerque and Bernalillo County for over 8 years. She's a native of Albuquerque. She grew up in Albuquerque's South Valley. She attended UNM and earned her master's degree in library and information science at the University of Denver. Her paternal grandparents farmed pinto beans in the Estancia Valley just east of the Sandia Mountains when the valley was the pinto bean capital of the world. Her maternal grandparents came to work at Los Alamos just after World War II, and her grandfather went on to work, hold on one second, went on to work as an accountant at the Sandia Labs. She feels her family history incorporates both the rural and high-tech aspects of New Mexico's history. So without any further ado, Lisa Kindrick.
Oh, thank you for that introduction. Robert, I really appreciate that. So let me get going here. There we go. Oh, I'm so excited to have an opportunity to talk with you today about the resources we have at the Genealogy Center for New Mexico Family Research. Members of the New Mexico Genealogical Society and Albuquerque Genealogical Society have been a driving force behind the development of the Genealogy Center. You've supported the library through the donation of books, journal subscriptions, volunteer hours, so many volunteer hours, equipment purchases, and educational programs that make Albuquerque and the Genealogy Center such a fantastic place to do family history research. So I'm feeling privileged to share with you some of what you all and the genealogy community in Albuquerque has made possible, along with the library's support. My plan this afternoon is to take you on a whirlwind tour of the Genealogy Center in about 40 minutes. Please keep in mind that much of what I'm discussing is included on our Genealogy Center web pages. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer those once I'm through the presentation. So if you missed something, you can always check back on the genealogy web pages. Okay, hang on to your ancestor charts, because here we go. The Genealogy Center is all about helping you connect with the resources you need to find out more about your family history. We do our best to connect you with online and print resources and experienced researchers who can help you take the next step. We're focused on helping you learn to conduct this type of research rather than doing the research for you. You've probably already discovered that it's much more thrilling to make your family discoveries yourself. But we're always happy to do our best to help you find a path ahead if you hit a roadblock or need some advice. So, how do you make these family connections at the Genealogy Center? Begin by taking a look at the Genealogy Center web pages. Even if you don't live nearby, there may be a library near you which offers some of these resources or ways to get access to them, or you may want to come in to use them on your next visit to Albuquerque. The Genealogy Center is located on the second floor of the main library in downtown Albuquerque at 5th and Copper, as Robert mentioned. We're open all of the same hours as the main library. Because of COVID, we have somewhat shorter hours than in the past, and things are changing often. So be sure to check the library website or give us a call before you come. We just put out tables and chairs yesterday, so that's a big step forward. We're welcoming you as soon as you can make it to the Genealogy Center. Parking is available in the very special arts parking garage at the southeast corner of 5th and Copper. Bring in your parking stub and we can validate for 2 hours of free parking. This photo is looking out of the window of the Genealogy Center, and you can see the garage is just across the street. Some of you may remember when the Genealogy Center was located at the Special Collections Library at Edith and Central, or the genealogy collection was there. That library continues to be called the Special Collections Library and houses research collections on Albuquerque and New Mexico history and culture. And you'll certainly want to pay Special Collections a visit as you delve more deeply into your family history. But by dedicating the second floor of the main library to genealogy, we now have space to expand the collection. You can see that materials are openly accessible, which allows for browsing, a great way to make new discoveries. The main library and Genealogy Center are open more hours than Special Collections, and we have more parking at this location. The Genealogy Center currently has over 25,000 titles and 38,000 volumes covering history and genealogical records for all 50 states and many foreign countries. I believe this is the largest collection of U.S. genealogical materials in New Mexico. Many of these materials have been donated by the New Mexico Genealogical Society and your members, the Albuquerque Genealogical Society, the Hispanic Genealogical Research Center of New Mexico, DAR chapters in Albuquerque, the Mayflower Society, generous individuals. It really is truly a community effort and a community collection for our state and for Albuquerque. Materials at the Genealogy Center cannot be checked out, and we don't loan through interlibrary loan. But if you send us an email or create an interlibrary loan request at your local library, we can scan an article or some pages and email them to you if you're out of state. You can bring in laptops, cell phones, and other materials you may need. Keep in mind that it can be difficult to work from the small screen of a cell phone. I'm saying that because I've worked with a couple people trying to find their information on their cell phone this week. So consider bringing in paper copies or a laptop. The library is unable to give change or accept credit cards, so bring $1 and $5 bills and coins if you think you'd like to make photocopies or print. A library card isn't needed to use the materials and microfilm, but you may want to get one while you're here, and that will allow you to access online genealogical resources from home for free through the library's website and to use the library's computers. New Mexico residents can get a card that only needs to be renewed every 3 years and will also allow you to check out circulating library materials. New Mexico residents can get a card, out-of-state residents can get a card that will be good for 3 months and allow you to use the online resources from home. But you do need to apply for a library card in person at one of the libraries in Albuquerque. Just a quick reminder of some first steps in case you're just starting out. Even if you've been doing research for a long time, now that you know more about your family, you might want to retrace some of these steps. Let's talk a moment about that step, checking all the census records, starting with 1940 and then going back every 10 years or so. I hope you're all aware and we're all excited about the fact that the 1950 census is going to be released next April, the beginning of next year. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be interesting to see our parents or maybe ourselves on that census. Just a quick reminder, we also have all the federal and state New Mexico and Indian census records on microfilm. And there are a lot of databases that are freely available to you that have the full census records online. Census index books and transcriptions can be especially helpful when you're unable to find your family in the online census records. Most of the census books we have were created by volunteers who are familiar with New Mexico names and have looked carefully at the records. I just added a bibliography to the library's website of all the New Mexico census books we have here at the library, organized by the date of the census. So take a look when you get a chance at the library's website. On the genealogy web pages, there's a tab for New Mexico families, and you can download that document right there. The Albuquerque Genealogical Society recently made their 1885 and 1910 New Mexico census indexes and other publications freely available on Internet Archive. And there are links to those on their newly designed website, abqgen.org. Census records help to answer one of the most important questions you need to ask when doing your research. Where were they living? This question will help you to answer important questions about where to look for documents, including church records for your family. Robert Julian's Place Names book, maps, and the NMGS e-resources for church records are all great resources to understand the area where your family was living. We also have a software program called Animap at the Genealogy Center that will help you to see the county boundary changes for New Mexico and other states in any given year. Together with the census, these resources will give you a sense of where to look for your family's records. We have historical maps for the US and Europe and duplicates of maps for New Mexico that are held at the Special Collections Library. For in-depth research with New Mexico maps, you'll also want to visit Special Collections. Nmgs has donated a complete set of 63 detailed New Mexico topographic maps from the Bureau of Land Management to the Genealogy Center. And those are especially helpful to use when looking at homestead records or when you need a detailed view of an area. And NMGS also donated those for areas just around border states, border counties as well, like Arizona and Colorado. If you have family who are living in populated areas, you'll want to look at the digital Sanborn maps. Large-scale, detailed maps of over 50 New Mexico towns done for fire insurance purposes. And there's some small towns in there like Wagon Mound, Hobbs, some fairly small towns, and they're very detailed. You can see how houses were, how buildings were situated on the plot of land, what they were made out of. It's fascinating information. Those are available on our website, and now also many of the maps have been digitized in color and are available online from the Library of Congress. There are links to all of the online resources I'm mentioning today, including that Library of Congress website, on our genealogy web pages under the Online Databases tab. Probably the biggest fantastic thing about doing research at the Genealogy Center for people with ancestry in New Mexico is the fact that you have all of these major resources on this slide right at hand. Thanks to the Catholic Church's meticulous record keeping, New Mexico has baptismal, marriage, and burial records that can make it possible to trace New Mexico families back to the late 1600s in Spanish colonial New Mexico and beyond. Not only do we have these records for New Mexico and southern Colorado on microfilm up until the 1950s, but we have all of the church record extraction books published by NMGS, the Hispanic Genealogical Research Center of New Mexico, and others. Probably have over 200 church record extraction books for New Mexico and southern Colorado. You want to use all of these resources together to find your family records. Many of the records we have on microfilm have been digitized and are now available on FamilySearch.org. We are a Family Search affiliate library, which will give you access to over 1 million more records on Family Search on library computers than you would be able to access from home. Use these things all in tandem to work back through the generations of your family. If you haven't used the NMGS Finding Aids for Church Records on the NMGS website, you want to take a close look at that today. We use this on a regular basis to determine possible locations for a family's church records. Churches are listed by counties, which is a great way to get a sense of what churches were nearby. So if you don't find them in the records for Albuquerque, you can look at other records in that county, and then look at this fantastic option for tips on other places to research, where to find other records, earlier or later records. This is just a wonderful site, an essential site. And if you're logged into your free Family Search account, then you can click on any of those blue links there and it will take you straight to the records you want to search. Notice that this tells you both the Archives of the Archdiocese of Santa Fe real number, which is the AASF here, as well as the Family History Library number. And we use the AASF real number here. We have all of these films, and it's really exciting and convenient that you can now also view them on Family Search. To view or download a list of all the church record microfilm that we have at the Genealogy Center, you can go to our genealogy web pages. This is what they look like, and all the tabs along here are what I've been discussing, the online databases, New Mexico Families tab. Select that New Mexico Families tab or the Microform Collections tab, and you'll get an option to download a list of all of the microfilm that are available here at the Genealogy Center. And it lists all of the church record films that we have available. Their film numbers, the date they cover, that type of thing. We have a complete set of published church record extraction books, as I mentioned. And they're an incredible key to opening up the church records and making them more accessible to everyone. And they're some of the most heavily used books in our library system. So my heartfelt thanks goes out to all of you who have worked on these books. Often the books will indicate which reel of film the records are from and which frame of the film or which page of the church record book they're on. This can make life so much easier when you look for the original record on film or online. I'll just suggest that you get really familiar with the book you're using to be sure you're looking at all the possible places where you might identify a record for your family, and that you understand the format, indexes, abbreviations, and terminology used. There's a lot of variety in how the books are indexed, what they include, how they're organized. It can be easy to miss important information. The people who originally gave the information recorded the information and then much later did their best to record the information in the books. We have nobody in that chain is infallible. So take a careful look at the records and go back to the originals. When you take a look at the original record, and here's an example of an original record along with the church record extraction book, and then below here is the information that was pulled from this record. You can see just how lucky we are to have these amazing extraction books, as well as how important and exciting it is to see the original record. This is a record from the extraction book compared with the original. And many times, the original records are not nearly as readable as this one. So again, thank you to all of those of you who have worked on these books. We also have Diligencias Matrimoniales, or marriage investigations from about 1678 to 1850 on microfilm. And that list that I suggest you look at, that lists all the microfilm that we have here at the Genealogy Center, includes these films we have for these records. So if you can find a marriage investigation that was done by the Catholic Church to determine if there were impediments to the couple getting married, if you can find that in one of the New Mexico Roots books, we may have the associated documents for the investigation on microfilm, and those can be really interesting and have some interesting information in them. We have tons of records on microfilm. A lot of these have now been digitized and are available also online on different websites. This kind of gives you a sense of some of the things that we have on microfilm. We have tax assessment rolls for most counties between 1884 and 1912. And other types of records such as probates, deeds, and mining records for the more populated counties like Bernalillo County, Santa Fe County, Valencia County. If you, again, go to the Genealogy Center web pages and look at the microform collections tab, you can download a document or look at a document that will show you all of the county records that we have on microfilm. And here's some more records that we have on microfilm. A lot of New Mexico territorial era newspapers for different towns throughout New Mexico. These all have records in our online catalog. So if you search for a particular newspaper, Socorro Chieftain, or whatever it might be, you'll pull up the record for it and you can see what years the microfilm we have covers. So let's talk a little more about some of the printed materials. We add materials to the collection on a regular basis through generous donations and library purchases. So come in and keep an eye on what's new. We have those on a new arrivals table. You can see we have some fantastic new arrivals that have come in. Although we don't purchase family histories, we have a great collection of wonderful books that have been generously donated, often by the author. If you've written a book about your family We would love to make it available to researchers here, so please consider donating a copy to the Genealogy Center. The New Mexico Genealogical Society has really worked on increasing the quality of the Mexico genealogy section of books over the past years. So check the catalog or come in and take a look at our many new books for Mexico. We also have a comprehensive selection of periodicals and research journals. These are some titles we've received recently. Nmgs and AGS both donate journal subscriptions. Individuals have generously donated their subscriptions, and the library pays for quite a few. If you enjoy Family Tree magazine, which is right there on the front in the photo, you can borrow free electronic copies of Family Tree and other magazines from the library's electronic book system, as well as many genealogy books. These are some of the periodicals I would especially keep an eye on if I were doing research on my New Mexico family. I would go to these websites, go back and look at the archives and indexes or the title pages of what's included in the table of contents of these journals to make sure that because there might have been articles about my family or an area of the state that is relevant to my research. If I've missed some articles or journals that you think people should keep an eye on, please mention those in the chat box. Check our online catalog for the library's city directories, phone books, and yearbooks for New Mexico towns and cities. We have donated yearbooks for Albuquerque high schools at the Genealogy Center and city directories for Albuquerque. Donated yearbooks for other New Mexico towns, middle schools, and colleges are at special collections, along with a more extensive collection of New Mexico city directories and telephone books. I've added digital yearbooks for Albuquerque High School and Harwood School for Girls before 1940 to the New Mexico Digital Collections website. Many New Mexico yearbooks are also on Ancestry Library Edition in their U.S. School Yearbooks database. Family and vertical files. You can see we have file folders for families, and then we also have folders for states and counties. And these are materials that are just too flimsy or small to go on the shelf. These files include family stories, pamphlets, newspaper clippings, pedigree charts, journal articles, and more. This is an example of the file for the Salazar family. NMGS member Nancy Anderson generously donated many Civil War pension files, and those have a lot of great information in them. There are records for them in our catalog, and you can find them in the vertical files. If you have interesting family things you'd like to share with other researchers, especially family stories, we'd love to add them to our vertical files. I've mentioned the LAN several times, or the local area network. This system has databases developed by amazing volunteers from the Albuquerque and New Mexico Genealogical Societies and is available only at the Genealogy Center. It isn't connected to the internet and is supported and maintained by the Albuquerque Genealogical Society. This is just a bit of what's included on the LAN. You'll find over 1,000 digitized books, pedigree charts, and much more information. One of the most heavily used databases on the land is obituaries from the Albuquerque Journal for 1928 to 2005, plus vital record indexing for many years of Albuquerque newspapers beginning in 1888. There's also something called the New Mexico Combined Index, which makes it possible to search for names that appear in many New Mexico records, including articles from the New Mexico Genealogist, cemetery records, deed books, Albuquerque newspapers, New Mexico death certificates, and more. Volunteers recently completed a huge undertaking to index names from New Mexico death certificates and make them accessible on the land. We have these for people who died in New Mexico from about 1908 to March of 1951. You can see the wealth of information on these certificates, including names of parents, where parents were born, where people are buried, all kinds of great information. There are quite a few genealogy databases that you would normally need to subscribe to, but they are available for free through the library's website with a library card. You can find these links to these resources on the computers at the main library, or you can use them from home. Or go to the links on the Genealogy Center web pages, look at those online resources, and then you'll find links to all of these there. You do need to be at the library to use the American Ancestors database. The others can all currently be used remotely or at any of the libraries in Albuquerque. And here's where you would go to get the links for all of these different databases. So it's abqlibrary.org/genealogy, and then you'll get these tabs that you can go to. The library version of Ancestry.com or Ancestry Library Edition, they've currently made this available because of COVID to people from home. It used to be that you had to be at a library to use this database, but now, at least through June 30th, they're making it available from home. But you do have to make sure, if you don't, to go through the library's website. Even if you have a subscription to the US version of Ancestry.com, you might want to give this database a try because there are a lot of international records in here as well. So take advantage of being able to use Ancestry from home while you can. I just thought I'd highlight some of the records that might be of interest to people with New Mexico ancestry. Ancestry Library Edition includes the Spanish Archives of New Mexico Series 1 and 2, and the Mexican Archives of New Mexico. But you can see they've given them a different name. And they also have the territorial census of 1885 on Ancestry. So instead of just searching records, I would search their Ancestry catalog for these particular records and then search just that database. And you'll see these records are just beautiful on Ancestry. They look so much better than our microfilmed version of these records. They're in color and they're really crisp looking. So you might want to check that out when you get a chance. Another database that I think is especially fascinating is the New Mexico Department of Corrections records for 1905 to 1958. If you're lucky enough to have somebody who's in part of that system, because look at all the information on there. I love that they have photos, tell you if the person drinks, chews tobacco, what church they go to, all their good and bad habits. There's also a second page of these that shows if they have any tattoos or scars or marks on their body. They're really interesting. This is like one of my all-time favorite databases. So check that out when you get a chance. Another database you can use for free, Newspaper Archive. They've just changed their user interface, and we're all still trying to get used to it. But you'll notice up here in the top right-hand corner, you can create, if you want, you can create a free account. You don't have to do that to use this database for free through the library, but you can create a free account within this and then save your newspaper clippings to your free account. They call it a treasure box, where you keep your clippings or pages of the papers that are interesting to you. We only provide access to New Mexico newspapers through Newspaper Archive at the moment, and they have historic newspapers there for 60 New Mexico cities and towns. And this is an example of what a page looks like from Newspaper Archive. Another database you can use for free with your library card, Fold 3. You'll notice with Fold 3, they have different collections, a lot of records. It's especially strong for military research. There are naturalization records in this database, city directories, the Dawes rolls. There's a section for Native American and African American research. The Native American section has the Indian Census, which includes New Mexico, Pueblo, Navajo, and Apache records between 1884 and 1940. You can also create a memorial page on this website for a member of your family who was served in the military. So I created this one just messing around for my grandfather. So that's something you might think about doing with Memorial Day approaching. You might want to create a page for some of your family members, and you can add photos or stories or any kind of information you'd like to about a family member who served in the military. From this database is connected with Ancestry. So if you have an Ancestry.com subscription, you can save records from this database directly to your Ancestry family tree. Heritage Quest, another database you can use for free with your library card through the library's website. Something that's nice about this, it has all of the census records there, the US Census. And so if it gets to a point where you don't have a subscription to Ancestry, you can no longer access Ancestry Library Edition from home, you could search these census records from home. Also, they have a lot of digitized local and family history books, and those are quite interesting to look at. MyHeritage is the most recent addition that we've added to our genealogy databases. And people have been able to find some records in here that they weren't able to find in other sites, especially Scandinavian and UK records. So take a look at that when you get a chance. Of course, one of our strengths and the thing that really makes the biggest difference for people coming in to do research at the Genealogy Center are the wonderful volunteers that we have. Don't currently have volunteers at the library, but we're hoping that will happen in the not too distant future. And we can go back to having in-person volunteers and research days on a regular basis. In the meantime, you're welcome to come in and we will help you to get started. I mentioned we just added tables and chairs yesterday. So there's space for you to sit and look through the materials. The Albuquerque Genealogical Society has been offering free online one-on-one help, and you can sign up on their website for that. If you're an experienced researcher and would like to become a library volunteer or be available to help people in your particular area of expertise, I'd love to know that. Email me or give me a call and And let's talk about how you can help people with their research at the Genealogy Center. When the pandemic started, I was assigned to work at the Special Collections Library for a couple months while the libraries were closed. And I had an opportunity to go through boxes of materials that had been donated but had never been cataloged. And I came across this photo that was associated only with this note on the back that said, Cousins Modesta and Maria Dolores of Belen. This photo made me think about how easy it is for family history to be lost. Someone probably found this amazing photo at a yard sale or in a box after someone passed away, and they donated it to the library. Who were these young women? Where are they graduating from? What were their lives like? Or is it a graduation? I think we all find it difficult when family history is lost. I'm so glad you're interested in preserving and recording your family history, and I want you to know we're here to help. So contact us, come in and see us, and experience firsthand all of the resources we have to offer. And we'll give you a whirlwind tour in person. Thanks. So if you have some questions, anything I can answer about the Genealogy Center, the resources we have here, I'd be happy to do my best to answer those questions.
So please type any questions you have for Lisa into the Q&A, and we'll make sure she has a chance to answer those.
I tried to do a little, I didn't have a lot of time. I tried to do a little research looking at that photo of Modesta and Maria Dolores, and it says they're cousins. If maybe you have some ideas. I tried to kind of look at the dresses, get a sense of how old they were, what the time period might be. What do you think about that? And I looked at the census. There are a few Modestas in Belen. That's a fairly unusual name. It's not, Maria Dolores is a little trickier. It looks like there were about 3. I think I was looking about, I don't remember if it was the 1910 or the 1920 census. And then I started thinking, are they cousins of the cousins of the person who wrote that on the back of the photo, or are the 2 girls cousins? Because there was a family that had a Modesta and an M, or let's see, a Maria D in the family. So that's going to take some more work. Maybe you're somebody who'd like to find out more and spend some more time trying to solve that mystery, because I do hate not knowing who those girls were.
So Lisa, I'm getting lots of questions coming in, so I'm going to pose some of those questions for you.
Great.
Somebody asked, this is Sharon, asks, is an Albuquerque library card required for the online databases, or can I use my Los Lunas card?
No, you need to have a library card from one of the 18 branch libraries in Albuquerque. So next time you're in Albuquerque, stop by any of those libraries. It's free to get a card. If you have your New Mexico ID, you'll get a full privilege library card, and then you'll be able to use those resources from home, as well as a lot of other resources that the library has on their website.
Marcia asks, I want to research where my cabin was in the Jemez, what the environment there looked like 50 years or so ago. Where would I start?
I would start probably, if you're really wanting to look at a lot of different New Mexico maps. They have the best map collection for that type of thing at the Special Collections Library, and they have them a lot of different time periods and different years. So she could look at a New Mexico map for the time period when the cabin would have been there. Then we have the topographical maps, which have a lot of detail too. I don't know how much more information you have about the cabin and where it was located, but I probably would start with special collections for that.
So Daniel asks, are the computers open yet? You have chairs out and so forth. Are the computers open yet?
Right. The genealogy computer lab, there's 12 computers in there, and they're in a very enclosed space. So I think that lab will be opening up soon, probably not all 12 computers, but it's not open yet. There are computers available at the library branches and on the first floor of the main library. And you can use those computers to access all of the genealogy databases as well. They're limiting computer use right now to an hour at a time, an hour a day. So hopefully that will gradually open up and you'll get more time to be on those computers, but right now you're limited to an hour.
Okay. I think you answered this one kind of obliquely, but Marika asks, what's required to get a library card for a state resident who lives outside Albuquerque? They would just need to come to one of the branch of the library.
I'm sorry, but a lot of our agreements with these database providers, we can't just give cards out for everybody to use their databases for free. They base the pricing of the databases often on how large our community is. So you have to physically go into an Albuquerque library to get a card. So I would just, if you ever come into Albuquerque, take a few minutes to stop at any of the libraries to get a card.
And then Maxine asks, I live out of state. How do I get a library card? You talked about library access for people outside out of state. How do they do that?
Right. You have to come into an Albuquerque library to get a card. A lot of the databases like Ancestry Library Edition, Heritage Quest, all of those databases are available from larger public libraries, or they might be available for from an academic library near you in your state. So I would check also with libraries in your area and see if any of them are providing access to some of these online databases.
Okay. Ava asks, you mentioned there were digital records on Internet Archive. Can you give a URL?
What I would do is go to the Albuquerque Genealogical Society website, abqgen.org, and they have links to all of their publications that they've made available on Internet Archive there. So you can click on the link and it'll take you straight to the book on Internet Archive.
Okay. Marika asks, is there an index for the vertical files?
No, but they are all cataloged and in the library's catalog. So if you go to our website, abqlibrary.org, and then search the catalog, what I would do is search, for example, the subject Salazar family, or whatever the family name is. And then that will pull up all the resources we have for that particular family, including the vertical file. And you can look at the record for the vertical file, and often that'll tell you in the record some of the information that's in the file.
So not everything in the file is is in your catalog, but like the family name might be and things like that.
Yeah, if you search,
talk about what
if you search the family name, you'll see there's a record. It'll say vertical file, Salazar family vertical file, and then you can look at that record, and in the notes it'll tell you what's some of the information about what's in the file. And if it's not clear to you and you need some more information about what's in that file, you can give us a call and we can get the file and tell you what's in the file.
Great.
Is that answering the question, do you think?
I think so.
Okay.
And if they want to follow up, they can type in a follow up.
Sure.
So Michael says, if one makes a memorial page for a family member on Fold 3, do you know, would that page be available to everyone or only to those with a subscription to Fold 3?
It's available. I think that's a free part of Fold 3. So I think anyone can do that even without a library card. As far as I'm aware, anybody could, it's something that they freely allow people to do, even without a subscription or library access for Fold 3.
Okay. And is there a comprehensive guide to doing Spanish colonial research? What would you recommend for people that would pull together all the ideas about doing Spanish colonial research?
Well, one thing I would suggest is, something that I was running out of time, so I had to leave it out of my talk, is Karen Stein Daniel has written a book that was published by the New Mexico Genealogical Society about genealogical resources in New Mexico. And that lists all of the different institutions that have genealogical records and by the record type. So all the census records that are available, all the military records that are available, that type of thing. So that would give you a really good sense. And it lists them also by time period of what kind of records are out there that might help you with your research. And I don't know, probably Henrietta or Robert could recommend a really good book for what they would recommend for Spanish colonial research.
Well, I'm also going to put a plug in for our conference that's coming up in August that Robert mentioned at the beginning. We will have a couple of sessions about colonial research in that.
Yeah, there's so many aspects to that. And we have Henrietta's books, military records, Spanish colonial soldiers, those books, and just a lot of good documents out there. If you're doing land research, you'll definitely want to look at that Spanish Archives of New Mexico Series 1, find out more about the land grants and the documents associated with those.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's one request to see a particular slide that was about 3 slides back. It's the one after Heritage Quest. You're talking about what once Ancestry access runs out possibly in June.
Oh, the one, I'm sorry, which one? This one?
Let's see here.
No, back more, that one?
I'm not sure.
It's the one right after Heritage Quest history book.
Okay.
Heritage Quest, okay. This one?
Go one more.
This one? I don't know. What was the slide about?
If Ancestry runs out, then the one after that 3 slides back.
Oh, I see.
Ancestry
Yeah, this
subscription.
one, Heritage Quest. So Heritage Quest has, they're associated with Ancestry, and they're from the same company called ProQuest. So Heritage Quest, Fold 3, and Ancestry are all owned by the same company, which is why you can move records to your Ancestry subscription from some of these databases. And this has the census records on it, the US Census, and you can always access this and use these census records from home. They're also available on MyHeritage, and Family Search, of course, has all the census records, and that's always a free database that we should all be using all the time.
I think Kathy's noting that it was the one just before this slide. So back one slide that she was talking about.
That one?
Yeah, I guess. So this aspect of Fold 3, you were showing a sample of what you created for your grandfather, right?
Right, right.
And this is an example of a memorial page where you go there and you can assemble some of their records. You can also add your own things like that photograph and so forth. And create a memorial page that gives people a sense of that person's life.
So I added my grandfather's draft registration card to this for World War I, a couple photos of him, the ship's passenger logs when he got sent over to France and his return, newspaper article about the ticker tape parade they had in New York City when he returned from World War I. You know, he was living in House, New Mexico when he was drafted into when he joined in World War I. So I can't imagine going from House, New Mexico to a ticker tape parade in New York City right after the war ended. So that was quite an experience. And you can type whatever you want. You can put facts, stories, photos. So, and you can do these for anyone who served or in any way supported a war effort.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Hi, this is Hank, Lisa. Thank you so much. You're awesome.
Okay.
Cheering you on here in Bernalillo. This is great. So some people are asking questions, but I think we need to tell them that this will be published on our YouTube channel for NMGS so that they can go back and follow this through many times. And I think it's a great learning tool for people that are going to come on a research trip to New Mexico or to use the library. And I want to go back to your question about learning Spanish colonial research.
Yeah, you're the person to answer that question.
So you do the same type of research you would do in the Spanish colonial era as you would do in any other area, state, country. You start with yourself and work backwards. Now, when the library gets open or starts to open and we can do some volunteer work, we have help days with AGS where we have people doing Hispanic research, volunteering to work with people, and I've participated in that. And so I just encourage everybody to join NMGS. We have probably, I would say, the best researchers when it comes to Spanish colonial research in the country, perhaps in the world, maybe even just for our area. And so we have a lot of people that can help, and we have a fabulous journal that also can help people learn more stuff, you know, as they go forward or backwards in their research. So just want to make note of that. And you are what makes our library great. You're our best librarian. And I'm just reading the notes and everybody's like, oh, we just love Lisa.
Oh, you're so sweet.
So thank you.
And I've been thinking too, that article you wrote in the New Mexico Genealogist in December about finding baptismal records. If someone's just getting started, that's a great place to look. That's a great article to read. It really breaks it down, because that's the hardest thing is finding the right church. And often if you're lucky, once you find that area, then you can really make a lot of progress with your research. So so that was a great article, Henrietta. And
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I just want to mention again that the website for the Genealogy Center is a really good place to start. There's a lot of information there. And so abqlibrary.org, right?
Right?
Okay. And then you look for research, genealogy, and you can find it, or you could just do /genealogy.
Right.
Also, the NMGS website, nmgs.org, has a lot of links too. So if you're looking for information, both of those sites are great resources for New Mexico genealogy. And I would also like to thank you, Lisa. You did a really fantastic job. It's obvious that you have a very good scope of information at the library, and I've used that library many times. I haven't been using it lately because of COVID, but there are things online that people could use from your website. So again, I thank you again, Lisa, for your presentation, and great job.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's been fun. All right. Take care.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. And see you next month with Henrietta talking about El Paso records for New Mexico research. And there's Henrietta. There you go.
Yeah, Lisa, that was great.
Oh, thanks.
I forget how much stuff there is at the library.
I was afraid. I was feeling like it was just too basic. It's a lot of things that people may already know about what we have.
No, this will even be better because we're going to post it, and some of the AGS people were asking if it's going to be available, so we can point people to that. So it's going to be a great teaching tool.
Great.
And you can point people to it too.
Okay. Well, I hope you don't mind. I used a couple of your photos in there. I should have asked you permission. Oh, you look good. You always look good.
You need to make me look skinny.
The longer we keep doing this, then I'll have older and older. We can keep using those pictures.
Yeah.
100.
Anyway, no, this is great. It's always good to see everybody. And again, this was awesome. Really good.
Right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.